I'm Robert Cavuto, and today on Metal Rules, I'm pleased to be speaking with guitar extraordinaire Joe Stump for his Tower of Babel band's explosive new album, Days of Thunder, that will be out on July 4th. Joe, welcome. Pleasure to speak with you today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And
Now,
that
this is, oh,
I'm
sorry.
glad I'm glad you enjoy my past works.
Yes, yes, of course. I wouldn't be talking to you if I didn't. Is this Tower of Babel's debut release? I don't think I know of anything you've done before.
There was a it was just called Tower of Babel, and that was released. I want to say it was like 2016,
Okay.
and that was released by Lion Music, a Finnish label. And then what happened was, so that was out, and it was out doing biz for like a while. I want to say like maybe a year and change, and then the band had a falling out with the singer. Big surprise, and then like that never happens. And and uh, and what he did was he had all the publishing registered under his name, even my
Oh,
instrumentals. So we kind of like he had the whole record taken down all the platforms. So the record was kind of like somewhat short lived, even though it kind of did its thing like when it first came out, and then so this but and then we changed it, then we added the Joe Stump to it, just just in case he was going to continue on, but he really wasn't. He ended up we ended up being like a politician in Switzerland or something, you know what I mean? Yeah,
funny. I thought you were doing this similar to like what Michael Shanker does. He puts out an album and he has a specific band that's for his different projects, and he's got like multiple variations of Michael Shanker's this, Michael Shanker's that. And I was wondering if that was the mindset behind this.
No, this is just like that. All the same guys minus the singer are all the same. Are on the first record.
Right.
And so it's a pretty tight knit group. And the singer, Joe Amore, they call him the French Dio. So
Oh my
he
God, yeah.
fits in perfectly. And so everything's shaking out great.
Joe has incredible pipes. Wow.
Oh yeah.
Blown away. He really shines on this album. I'm not that familiar with him. I got to go back and look see some of his other works, but wow, how did you two connect?
Well, what happened was Maestro Mysterio, the keyboard player, he heads that Vivaldi metal project. That's like
Yeah.
that's his thing. He also plays keys in Bruce Dickinson's Mandrake project.
Oh,
And
really? Oh,
yeah, so he's doing really well. He's doing really well. I'm sorry, hold on one sec. I just want to
sure.
get rid of my and what was I going to tell you? Yeah, so and so like we were looking for a singer, and Joe did some stuff with him on the Vivaldi metal bit,
Okay.
and I was like, and then he sent me the sent me like a YouTube link of him playing. I'm like, this dude's perfect. You know what I mean? I think
Oh,
he
yeah.
was. I think he was doing. It was like I think he was doing like a D. I mean, he has a band called King Crown over in France,
Okay.
and then he was in a band called Nightmare that did some things, and but he was doing like a like a Dio tribute or whatever, and I forget what he was singing. Might have been Holy Diver or Last in Line or something. It was like it was killer. So I was like, this guy's perfect, you
Yeah.
know.
I,
Uh,
I heard his voice going from Dio to with Richie Blackmore with Rainbow. I heard a lot of that variation that he was able to throw in, slight and even some parts Deep Purple. I thought early Deep Purple, Ian Gillan. I was hearing that too.
oh yeah, well that's pretty much the direction of the record. You know what I mean? It's no secret that that I'm a huge worshiper of all things Richie Blackmore.
Yeah,
And this record, I'm very pleased, like direction wise and stuff, because it's a little bit more of like kind of walks the line between a hard rock record and a metal record.
I agree. I agree. When you set out to record this, was all the band members contributing, coming with ideas for this? Did you come up with all the music yourself?
I came up with no, it's all me. No, I'm only kidding. It's all me. Those no, I like when I write stuff, I don't just like write like a riff and then ask like I'll write the whole, and I do the same thing with anything I compose with Alcatraz. I'll write the entire tune, and have it arranged and have it like, okay, well the vocal comes in here. This is the pre-chorus. This is the chorus. This is the middle eight or whatever you want to call it. And and I have the whole thing like pretty much etched in stone. I let all the players contribute whatever they want. I don't like dictate exactly. There's
Yeah.
obvious like accents and drum hits, but all of the guys are great players, and they've played, and they're quite knowledgeable when it comes to playing in this style, because they all love the same music I do. So we're all like minded. So they interpret it perfectly. And I always let the, like Blackmore would do and like Michael Shanker would do, I let the singer have free range as far as working on the lyrics and melody lines. And
Right.
also Mark Cross, the drummer, actually helped Joe with a bunch of the lyrics and melody lines as well, because they recorded all the vocals at his studio. So he was kind of producing Joe on that end, and working with him on that. So it came out quite good.
Yeah, like tremendous melody on this album to anybody who's interested in picking this out, because I think it's a must-have. The Princess, great song, great melody, very reminiscent of like what I said earlier, Rainbow. Uh, and I'm looking at all these pictures of Richie in the black and in the background. So yeah.
Yeah, yes, exactly. This I got Ingve over here on on this side,
Yes.
and then RB over here. So, and then I have like like Jimmy, Hendrix is over there on the right, and then I have some cool live Gary Moore pictures that when I went to see him back in on the Wild Frontier tour. A friend of mine was a photographer that that I have. So so this is my workroom where I spend most of my time like playing, writing,
Yeah.
recording, all that. You know what I mean? So it's like you died and went to guitar heaven.
Yeah, I love it. So The Princess, great song, great vibe to it. Was that, and then of course with Joe's vocals on it, really comes together. What was the inspiration? Obviously, was a little bit of rainbow thinking in the background.
Oh yeah, like the whole record is all rainbow and deep purple. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that, but so yeah, that it kind of, because it kind of starts out with that kind of like that kind of bluesy lick, a la Blackmore kind of thing.
Yep.
It's the kind of thing where I couldn't put like some of the stuff I can kind of put my finger on it, like oh, I was thinking about like Alone in the Desert. I was thinking
Right.
of like that epic, obviously Gates of Babylon, Stargazer, the Eyes of Fire, those types of rainbow tracks. But Princess doesn't, like, it's not like a purple tune immediately, or a rainbow tune like specific one immediately comes to mind. But does it sound? But does like almost the whole record sound like in that vein? Absolutely. And
Oh yeah.
is it on purpose? Yes.
I was thinking to myself, I was like, if this was Rainbow to continue, this would be their album for the modern day. This would be the perfect Rainbow modern day album if all the guys were alive and willing to do it.
Yeah, well, that to me, that's an extremely high compliment. So thank you very much. And that's pretty much the point of it. Especially now, Richie Blackmore just turned 80. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did go to see him when he played when he did those dates on the reformation of Rainbow with Ricky Romero. I went to
Yes.
two German shows in 2016, and then I went to Glasgow in 2018. And then I had tickets to see him in Munich in 2019, but I think I was touring in Australia at the time and I couldn't go with
Yeah.
Alcatraz.
Have you ever met him?
No, no,
Really?
I never. Sadly, I never met him. He lives in I believe he
Upstate New
lives
York.
in Patchogue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
upstate New York, right?
No, he lives on the island. He lives in Patchogue.
Oh, okay. Got it. Got it.
Yeah, like kind of like on the eastern Long Island side, like maybe 15, 20 minutes away from Port Jefferson.
Oh, okay. And how come you've never met him? I mean, he's such a huge fan, such a talented guitar player
I,
himself.
yes, I would love to hang with him. You know what I mean? He like
Yeah.
talk guitar. Hang out with him. Exactly. I'd like to hang out at the bar in his basement. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
Throw a couple back and talk to him and hang out with him. Yes, it'd be awesome. You should invite me over.
I think he should. I think he should. Maybe
You
maybe
should.
he'll watch this. Maybe he'll watch this.
If RB's tuning in, you know what I mean. Like yeah, I talked to him about music. He loves German beer.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
more of a double IPA dude myself, but you know what I mean. I'll throw whatever RB's drinking is fine with me.
You have two killer instrumental tracks. They're short though. Dominion, Black Knight's Prelude, instrumentals. You do a tremendous job instrumentally, because I always think the main voice is the guitar, which is key and it's critical. It carries the focal phrasing of the melody and of the song. Is that automatically implied when creating instrumental music for you to make the guitar the focal point?
Yeah, well, I write. I'm not like one of those all round, Dominion. That's the maestro's composition. You know what I mean? He put that together as like we were thinking. Okay, well, we really need we need some kind of introduction to the record, and he's like a master musician himself.
Right.
All the guys like really serious dudes like Nick, the bass player. He's got like a master's, and he'll do like classical, classical contrabass stuff and play jazz and fusion gigs as well as playing rock and metal. So they're all like serious dudes. But but me, what, but I'm not like one of those all around musical dudes where like all I can play is the guitar. You know what I mean?
And well, you played extremely well.
Yeah, that's my. Do I sing? No, listen to my voice. You know what I mean. You don't want to actually, you don't want to hear that over a microphone. And what was I gonna with my nasally New York accent? But no, what? So the way I always create, an instrumental, I'm just here in my room, and I just start playing, and then things come to me. So I always write, like anytime I write a melody, I always write the melody first. I never write a chord sequence and write the melody over the chord sequence. I always, like
Oh,
for any of my instrumentals, it comes to me very, very organically where I'm just playing, and then, some kind of melody comes to me, some kind of chord groove comes to me. Maybe it's some kind of cool like classical bit. Maybe it's, maybe it's some kind of yeah, and then it ends up someplace. Okay, well that this is going to be, and then it ends up on a record someplace.
no, that's pretty great. Um, Tell me about when you're recording and you're recording the solos, specifically the solos. You said earlier that you have everything kind of mapped out for the song. Do you map out your solo note for note when you're going in recording, or is there a lot of improv when you're doing that, more
Um,
free flowing?
Yeah, there's a little bit of both sometimes. Sometimes sometimes I'll have like it could be a lot of times what I'll do when when I'm gonna play a solo. Usually, I pretty much before I start to record the track, I have everything fairly meticulously
Okay.
prepared.
Yeah.
Not where all of a sudden I like record a section and then I'm not sure what the bridge riff is. Ah, it'll come to I don't record like that. I have everything like meticulously crafted and everything. And then usually what I'm doing is I'm just working some ideas over like a drum groove for the
Right.
solo section. Then all of a sudden I'll play something. It's like that, so a lot of times a scripted solo could be things that I came upon spontaneously, but then then I managed to organize them and put it together. Or maybe I play something and I don't quite execute it, but then I go back, I'll go back, like organically work it out, and then oh, I'm going to implement that. Sometimes I just go for it and fly by the seat of my pants, and and do that. So a bunch of the solos on the record are kind of like that,
Yeah.
or sometimes I'll like I'll channel, I'll channel different, like each part of the solo or different types of ideas. I'll be channeling, one of my heroes. You know what I mean?
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
One of
yeah,
my favorite songs is Trust Me, and I love the solo in that one. What's going through your head when you're doing that solo? Was that spontaneous? Was that written out? And are you
yeah, yeah,
channeling
yeah.
anybody?
That's completely spontaneous,
Really?
and yeah, that's completely spontaneous. So what am I thinking there? What am I thinking there? I'm vibing on like all of my favorite versions of Mistreated. You know, I have Made in Europe. I have Graz '75. I have Live on Stage. I have Live in Germany '76. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so I'm kind of vibing out, and and I'm just kind of organically just doing my thing with it.
What a great song. Well, it's again my favorite. The rhythm tone is pretty brutal too. You got some killer rhythm tracks, particularly Days of Thunder. The whole album carries through. What's your philosophy on your settings of your amps, getting that sound and dialing it up quickly when you want it, when you have an idea?
Oh well, my practice tone is like a little microcosm of my of my recording tone.
Okay.
So I have a fairly good home practice tone that I use. And then I live in a house, so I have I have a cabinet mic'd up in the basement. In fact, I've been recording. I have like one of my Marshalls is behind me in the chair here, so I run the cable up, and then the Marshall stays in the room with me. And on this particular record, with the exception of Days of Thunder, I used like a heavier setup where I used one of my like an ESP-SN with a humbucker on Days of Thunder, and a Floyd on it, which is not what I normally play, but it just fit the tune really good.
Yeah, it does.
But on this record, I was playing a particular Strat that I have that has that these German guys put this pickguard together where it's got these hand wound Richie Blackmore single coils in it. You know what
Wow.
I mean? So it's a complete Blackmore machine, and my tone on the record and then the pedal I'm using on the record is the Gunslinger RB 1011, which is like a Blackmore style overdrive. In fact, Alex Ray wrote that plays with Voodoo Circle. It's Alex's company. He's a great player in his own right, and he put together this box. And I've got a few of them from him, and he even mentioned that Blackmore actually bought
Oh wow.
a few from him. You know what I mean? So
I gotta check it out.
yeah, so I use that quite a bit on the record because my tone's a little bit more, because much more like Blackmorish, and even though I play very aggressively like a metal player, so that's going to translate no matter what I'm using. But for me, it's always Strat, Marshall, Drive Box. You know what I mean?
We
So,
talked about this song earlier, Alone in the Desert. Another great melodic song, hard rock metal song. Perfect example of merging your playing style and your songwriting. How do you always keep pushing yourself forward without getting stagnant?
well, I love guitar and I love to play, and it's very gratifying for me that the last bunch of records I've made, whether it be with Alcatraz or my last like Diabolical and Dark Lord Rises and Symphonic Onslaught, my last bunch of solo records, I keep getting better and better because because I'm still on it all the time. I love to play, and it's always I'm always very excited about it, and I'm not like one of those people where I just let the I know it sounds all, I let the music do what I let the music go where it's supposed to go.
Right,
I
right.
mean I'm not like one of those people when I compose something where I'm dissecting it and changing it, and oh, I want to try it this way or that way. I just kind of let it happen, and then put it all together, and it just comes to me very organically. I don't overthink it, and I'm never I know I'm not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, yeah.
I never claim to be a game changer. I'm just taking the things I love from all my heroes, and trying to do my own little thing with it.
That's great. Tell me about your technique. Do you change up your technique from Tower of Babel or your solo work to Alcatraz?
Well, it depends. In Tower of Babel, there are some fast technical parts in the solos, but it's more of a Blackmore tone and a Blackmore approach to my playing. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Where are there is there shredding on Days of Thunder, the record? Yeah, of course there's shredding. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But is there shredding like there is on like a solo record? No, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Nothing like that. You know what I mean? So I am kind, and plus for me, it's always playing for the track. Everybody knows I can play very technically. Everybody knows I can play very fast. Everybody knows I can play those fancy, shreddy arpeggios and neoclassical stuff and all that. But it's always got to be. It's always about where the music takes you, and playing what's proper in in the context of the track.
No, that's great. Um, Alcatraz, they just got signed to Brave Words, right? Are you
Yeah,
working
yeah.
on a new album, or how close to an album are you with them?
Yeah, yeah. Well. We just released a re-record of the old Island in the Sun track.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that
No,
was just, but yeah. So I think there's going to be. I don't want to let. I don't want to. tell tales out of school, but I think there's going to be more of that action. But no, we are going to do a brand new studio record that'll be out next year.
That's great.
So that's like I was on. I'm a associate professor at Berklee College of Music, so I was on sabbatical from January till like May. So I did the Alcatraz re-records, and I did a new solo record. So that was like, that's what I've been doing since, yeah. So my new solo record is like a few notches up from my last one. So I'm really super pleased with it. But so I have all these things in the works. So we'll see. But the Alcatraz record won't be out till next year, and probably my new solo record as well, because I got like the Tower of Babel record that's just coming out in July. Unless I like Tower of Babel's working with Silver Lining Music, and my solo record will be on Silver Lining Music
Great.
still. You know what I mean?
Well, I hope to talk to you. I hope to talk to you again when that solo album comes out. That'd be fascinating.
Oh yes, please, by
Yeah.
all means, it'd be a pleasure.
I recently read that uh, what Graham Bonnet was putting together his own version of Alcatraz. What's your thought? What's your take on that whole crazy story?
Well, Graham, like I think when we first got Doogie to sing, Graham just kind of came out with that, but nothing ever came of it.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
Yeah, nothing ever came of it. So I think he was just kind of like, just kind of doing it more to like draw attention away from the band continuing on without him. I mean, I'm sure like maybe his impression was, well, without me, those guys are, those guys are going to be, those guys aren't going to continue on, So,
Yeah,
so we got Doogie, and we did two records with Doogie, which came out, which came out quite good,
yeah.
That
It was
was a
great.
nice fit. And it was nice for me. Checked all the boxes. Okay, just like Graham played with Richie, played with Michael Shanker, played with Ingve. It's like, okay, cool. I'm very fortunate. I got to work with two singers that have played with that have played with three of my my top five dudes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Doogie's great. I saw him live, and I really enjoyed him on Shanker stuff. He was a tremendous performer. What a great voice.
Yeah, Doogie's awesome. It was a pleasure working with him. And now Giles Levery, Giles sings with Warlord, and Giles is and he's been touring with us, and he'll be singing on the new record. And he can, he's got like he sings like all the Graham stuff. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
and he can legit hit the notes and all that. So and he's like he's got a great voice for metal. So it'd be interesting to see how the next Alcatraz record shakes
that's
out.
great. That's great. Well, do you think we'll see a tour, Tower of Babel tour? I don't know where Joe lives. Is he live in France? Is it tough to get a visa to come here to do all this stuff? A tour of
Yeah, well, yeah, well, there are all going to be some Tower of Babel touring dates, but more than likely we're going to be in Europe. So I'm the only American in the band.
oh.
Everybody else lives in Europe. So, and then the other thing is the visa thing is so insanely expensive because like Alcatraz, we did a package in the States with Girls School and Lillian Axe,
Right.
and the girls' school ladies. They had to go through quite a bit. You know what I mean? Quite a bit to get their visa stuff squared away. And they were like, "Why do you make it so hard for us to come to your bloody country?" Uh, you know, like where when I play in the UK, all I'd have to do is show like a little piece of paper, and then
That's
and like wait, come on in, exactly like where you got to jump through a bunch of hoops here in the States. But plus it's quite pricey.
That's it. That's it. Well, listen, I really thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. It was a fascinating interview and very insightful. So thank you so much. And I wish you the best with the album. And maybe I come out to Europe and see Tower of Babel out there. It sounds like it's the best bet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In your area, I'm going to be like solo wise. I'm playing in the city on July 12th.
Oh, really? Where?
At the Cutting Room with Rob Balducci. Rob's kind of like a Satriani-ish kind of dude.
Yes.
It's a guitar show at the Cutting Room, and like I think that's right around Midtown or whatever.
I know exactly where it is. So definitely I'll come out and see you then.
Yeah, let me know. Shoot me an email or whatever,
Yeah.
and I could always put you on the list.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was nice
All right,
talking.
thanks for having me.
Bye bye.
Bye.